Hello and welcome everyone to the in-depth series of Drishti IAS English. I am Pragya with you today. In our insightful episode of In-Depth today, we have very pressing and pertinent issues to discuss. The title of our today's discussion is Climate Litigation in India. So do you all know that you have a right to be freed from the negative impacts of climate change? Yes. After a recent Supreme Court ruling, you do have a right to be freed from the negative impacts of climate change as a fundamental right under Article 21 and Article 14 of our Indian Constitution. So now the question which we will answer today is, will this recent ruling of the Supreme Court increase climate litigation in India? In this discussion today, we are firstly going to study about the Supreme Court ruling. Then we are also going to examine the increasing climate litigation all across the globe. Then we'll also understand climate litigation in India, the India's climate change pledge, and lastly we'll discuss a practice question for your prelims examination. So if I talk about the news or the background of our today's topic, so as I said, the Supreme Court in a recent ruling has recognized that Indian citizens have a distinct right to be freed from the negative impacts of climate change under Article 21 and 14 of the Indian Constitution. So we do have a right to clean air, right to clean environment recognized as a right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. But the Supreme Court, being cognizant of the negative changes that we are facing due to climate change, deemed it proper to recognize it as a distinct right under Article 21 of our Indian Constitution. So this brings us to the moot point of our today's discussion, the major Supreme Court ruling in which it has made these observations. So the case name is M.K. Ranjit Singh and others versus Union of India and others. In this case, basically, the Supreme Court was dealing with the issue and its previous ruling on the conservation of two critically endangered bird species, namely the Great Indian Bustard and Lesser Florican. So both of these bird species are critically endangered as per the IUCN Red List of Species. They are also recognized as scheduled species under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So basically, the Supreme Court was hearing a challenge by the central government in which the central government was contending that some of the directions that were issued by the Honorable Supreme Court in a previous case were too impracticable to be implemented. The Supreme Court agreed to the demands by the central government and modified its earlier order. But the Supreme Court took in general the cognizance of the adverse impacts of climate change and said that as per the Indian jurisprudence, we recognize right to life, right to clean environment, right to livelihood, right to health as a part of our rights given under Article 21. Okay, and it said that now the time was right to recognize right to be freed from the negative impacts of climate change as a distinct right under Articles 21 and 14 of our Indian Constitution. The Supreme Court noted that intersection of climate change and human rights has been put into sharp focus in the recent years, and under which rights you will observe this intersection of climate change and human rights. You can observe this under right to life and livelihood. So yes, climate change is definitely impacting our right to life and livelihood. Talk about the recent hurricanes, talk about the recent floods, increase in floods. So the people are, forcefully being relocated, and definitely it is impacting their right to livelihood. Then, right to clean air and environment. In fact, right to sanitization as well. So yes, it is impacting our right to clean air and environment, right to sanitization, and this is where we see an intersection between climate change and human rights. Climate change is adversely impacting our basic human rights. If you talk about the indigenous people's right, so there are indigenous communities who believe in the worship of nature, who believe in the worshipping forests, and we are losing our natural resources, forest at an unprecedented rate due to climate change, due to the development activities, and it is impacting the indigenous people's right. Then health. Climate change has a very adverse impact on the general health of the people. Then there is migration and displacement. So due to the lack of resources, due to the impacts of climate change, people are forced to leave their hometowns, they are forced to migrate, and there is a huge displacement of people. So these are the kind of areas in which you will see the adverse impacts of climate change and intersection of climate change with the basic human rights. And as per Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, definitely every Indian citizen has a right to life. And right to life, as has been interpreted by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, it does not mean a right to have a mere animalistic existence. It means that you have a right to a dignified life. And climate change is definitely affecting our right to live a dignified life. Moving forward, let us examine the increasing climate litigation all across the globe. So if I talk about this term climate plus litigation in very simple terms, so this term climate plus litigation means any kind of litigation that has climate as a subject, and it is broadly known as climate litigation. So climate litigation represents a frontier solution to change the dynamics of the fight against climate change. Globally, more and more people are filing cases in courts related to environment issues, seeking a rights-based framework that has also been adopted by the Honorable Supreme Court of India in this recent ruling. So what exactly is this rights-based framework? So the people in today's around the globe are very unhappy with the multinational corporations as well as their own governments regarding the policies related to climate change, and that is why they are now approaching the courts asserting their rights. And what are these rights? These include right to life, right to food, human rights, right to clean air and environment, then you have family rights, right to water, so now the citizens all across the globe are going to courts in form of climate litigation to assert all of their rights which they are entitled for living a good life. Moving forward. So the 2023 edition of the Global Climate Litigation Report, a periodic publication by the UNEP, identified 2180 climate-related cases in courts, tribunals and other legal bodies across 65 countries. And if you analyze the 2020 edition of the same periodical by this UNEP, and the very first periodical which was launched in the year 2017, you will be easily able to figure it out that yes, there has been a spike in the climate litigations all across the globe. So we are becoming more and more aware about our rights, and we are now approaching the courts for asserting our basic human rights, which we are entitled under Article 1 of the UDHR. As per Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, every citizen, every person is born free and with dignity. So we are not, the citizens all across the globe, including us also, are not satisfied with the approach, with the kind of solutions that is given by their governments for mitigating the worst impacts of climate change, and they are also not happy with the multinational corporations, and that is why they are increasingly approaching the courts all across the globe. The United States alone accounts for about 70% of these cases identified by the 2023 report. So this climate litigation is very prevalent in the developed nations, especially the United States of America and in the continent of Europe. But if we'll talk about the developing nations, they have also seen a spike in the climate litigations. The report identified 11 cases in India, putting it 14th on the list of countries with maximum number of climate related cases. Moving forward. So basically, as I said, it is using a rights-based framework. In other cases, people have sued governments for lack of enforcement of existing climate laws or policies, and corporations for liability compensation or greenwashing. The increase in climate-related cases has also sensitized the courts. So basically, the courts are also inclined to deal with this matter better than they were before. They are also sensitized towards the issues that the citizens are facing due to the adverse impacts of climate change, and definitely they are ruling in favor of those peoples, those activists which are protecting the inaction by the governments as well as the multinational corporations. Moving forward. Litigations such as one in Agenda Foundation versus the Netherlands leads to sensitization of governments, citizens and the private sector alike towards the threat of climate change, often beyond the result of a particular case. And this case has created ripples all across the globe, and this case has set a very good precedent for the other organizations, other non-governmental organizations working towards in the field of climate change, that yes, you can approach the courts. The courts are more sensitized now. They are better equipped to deal with your cases now. And now you can assert your rights against the climate change. You can assert your rights against the inaction of the government in implementing policies towards climate change. In fact, a recent case which was filed before the European Human Rights Council by Swiss women. They asserted in this case that heat waves violated their right to family, and the European Human Rights Council ruled in the favor of these kind of Swiss women, the petitioners, that yes, the government of Switzerland has indeed violated their human rights. Okay, so yes, these kind of climate litigations, these kind of favorable judgments are sending ripples all across the globe, that you can go to the courts and reinforce your basic human rights which you are entitled to. In doing so, such strategic climate litigation also creates awareness and knowledge capital all across the globe in sensitizing the courts as well as the governments in the fight against climate change. Moving forward, let us talk about the climate litigation in India. So let us firstly discuss the constitutional provisions relating to various kind of environmental issues in India. So the very first article is the directive principle enshrined in Article 48 Clause A, which mandates environmental protection. Then there is Article 51 Clause A subclause G, which mandates wildlife conservation. Then there is Article 21, which talks about right to life and personal liberty. So all of these constitutional provisions deal about the right to have a safe and a sound environment. If you talk about various doctrines that have been evolved by the Honorable Supreme Court of India in relation to environment law, they include the polluter pays principle, precautionary principle, and the public trust doctrine. So time and again, through various landmark decisions, our Honorable Supreme Court has taken cognizance of being in a correct environment, being in a clean environment, and has enforced environmental laws in India. So we also have the National Green Tribunal, a tribunal which is specifically dedicated for enforcing environmental laws in India, but litigations often also go in the High Courts and the Supreme Court. The recent Supreme Court decision has highlighted the urgency of addressing climate change and its interconnected issues such as deforestation, habitat protection, urban development, and pollution effectively. Moving forward. However, the effectiveness of court rulings on climate change remains a big question mark, particularly when it comes to something like enforcing a right to be free from adverse impacts of climate change. And why is it so? Because see, you have declared it as a fundamental right under Article 21, but implementation definitely will be a huge challenge because it involves the development policies. It also will involve questioning the executive policies. And how far will judiciary exercising its judicial activism can interfere in the legislatures and executive domain is still a big question mark, because we have declared this right as a part of Article 21, but implementation definitely is a huge challenge. So it is very easy to intercept or intervene in small matters. For example, the MNCs which are violating our environmental legislations, the government inaction, etc., for securing the right to clean air, deforestation, etc. Okay, so it is very easy to intercept and intervene in these small matters. But if you talk about climate change, it is a different arena altogether. So time will only tell that how judiciary will now enforce this distinct fundamental right that it has recognized under Article 21 of our Indian Constitution. Now let us examine the India's climate change pledge. So India has pledged to increase its capacity for generating power from non-fossil fuel sources as a part of its international climate change commitments outlined in the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. India is likely to account for 25% of the global energy demand growth over the next 2 decades. So we also have the National Action Plan on Climate Change, or NAPCC. We are working towards, decreasing our carbon footprints. We are working towards saving our environment, and the government has various schemes dedicated to saving the citizens from the worst impacts of climate change. So if you talk about India, definitely it is taking these kind of positive steps to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change, and it has a very positive outlook towards decreasing the impacts of climate change. So with this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have discussed the recent Supreme Court ruling. We have also seen the increase in global litigations, climate change or climate litigations. Okay, we have also examined that yes, the impact of the recent Supreme Court ruling in increasing climate litigations in India. Definitely we need more activists. If you talk about one activist which changed the whole scenario of environmental laws in India, and that person is known as MC Mehta, who has time and again utilized the concept of public interest litigation. So yes, if you talk about India, the climate litigations are going to increase because our youth is definitely more aware and more assertive about their rights. So definitely this recent ruling by the Honorable Supreme Court of India will lead to climate litigations in India, increase in climate litigations in India. But we have one question to answer: how will the judiciary implement this newly created distinct fundamental rights? And we have studied about all of this in our today's session. Now let us discuss a practice question for your prelims examination. So the question is, right to clean environment is recognized under which article of the Indian Constitution? Your option A is Article 41 Clause A. Your option B is Article 21. Your option C is Article 51 Clause A Subclause G. Your option D is Article 19. And this answer will be given by you to me in the comment box below. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you have any feedback regarding this session, you can drop it in the comment box below. If you liked today's discussion and found it to be helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting updates. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.